The Olsinski Law Firm is an official sponsor of Top Bin 90, specializing in personal injury, criminal defense, DWI, family law, and workers' compensation. The Olsinski Law Firm provides professional, trusted legal services to clients facing a variety of challenges. With a team of experienced attorneys dedicated to protecting your rights, the Olsinski Law Firm is the legal support you can count on.
Hi, I'm Justin Olsinski, the founding partner of the Olsinski Law Firm. Me and my wife started this firm back in 2010 with the sole purpose of providing excellent service to our clients, giving our clients a personal touch because we had worked in bigger firms where we saw that not happening. We handle criminal defense matters, civil personal injury, wrongful death, workers' comp, and family law matters. We have a team of attorneys that care about the outcome of your case, and we will fight to make sure that you get the justice you deserve.
Hello and welcome to episode 37 of the Top Bin 90 podcast. It has been a phenomenal weekend. We are super excited. Another Charlotte FC win. They make history this weekend, tying the MLS all-time record of wins post-shootout era. So make sure you got to say that. For this very special episode, we've got two, I like to say, of the best minds in MLS. And I'll start off with my co-host, Mr. Brian Bamauer Media. How are you today?
Doing well, man. Doing well. We've raised our standards just like Dean and Ashley have said that that Charlotte FC have done all year. We only do shows when MLS history is on the line.
Yeah, for sure, right? And so Charlotte FC Clip says he's hyped for this one. I'm hyped for this one as well because we got Mr. Vaughn on tonight.
I can be Van tonight.
I was trying to think of your Twitter name, and then it just I just completely choked on that. But Vaughn, how are you tonight?
Man, times are pretty great right now. Vibes are high. Very excited to be here.
Nice, yeah, very excited. I enjoy the Charlotte FC matches that we go to that have a special air to them. And this past Saturday was one of them for me, and so there's games that are kind of just not games that you just go to and it's okay, another night at the bank. But this past Saturday, it was just electric. Yeah. Everything about this Saturday was just so phenomenal, from the match, and we'll get into all of that, but it just makes me appreciate, having a MLS team in our home ground, that we can be proud of, and so we'll get into a couple of things. And obviously, Charlotte FC beat Inter Miami 3-0, right? A phenomenal match. Kalina, phenomenal. Idan Toklomati, phenomenal. I mean, Sam was talking to us about our stock up, stock down article. He was like, there's nobody to put the stock down. I was like, just put the people that, wore Inter Miami jersey stock down. And so we did that. And so with that said, I'll start off with you, Brian. Give me your thoughts on the match.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it was just the most text messages I think I'd received from just people I knew who were at the game, following the game, watching the game. Even afterwards today, talking to people about it, there was a lot of buzz around this game before and since. And I think that's just one of these things that I would say Charlotte FC has kind of been lacking a little bit up until now. And so to have this moment and then to just crush it the way they did, especially that second goal. If there was one moment of the game for me that stood out, it was that second goal. Such a great team goal. Diani making the off ball run, dragging the defender, Bronico making the run, Zaha finding him with a perfect pass and the cross to Toklomati. Moments like that, I think, really stand out. I mean, and Matt Doyle posted about it, man, this is just a beautiful goal. And so just getting that kind of buzz around this team in a moment like this is just huge.
Nice. Vaughn?
Yeah, to me, it was almost like a watershed moment. I think I've talked to you guys about the renaissance that happened in Kansas City when the Wizards squared off against Manchester United and won a friendly at Arrowhead Stadium. And for Kansas City, it was like the absolute launching pad for soccer in the city. And it then there was the rebrand, and then there was the new stadium, and there were like multiple years of like really high quality MLS play coming out of Kansas City once they rebranded to Sporting KC. This game this week, I think, served as a little bit of that for Charlotte. I don't know that to the same degree, but I mean, we delivered on the promise and rose to the occasion, right? That we had a record that we were pursuing to tie the MLS record for wins in a row, and everybody was talking about it. Like all of the news channels are hyping up the game, and the weather guys are talking about, hey, it's gonna be great weather out there for the record-setting game. But like the team stepped up and they delivered a 3-0 knockout to the perceived powerhouse, messy Miami team. And I think it's a real game changer there's a lot of people that watched that game that probably wouldn't have been tuning in to this, hey, 5 games left in the season, and Charlotte FC surging up the table. But like the team is capturing the hearts, it's capturing the eyes, and I think it's garnering a lot of respect. It's so exciting to have that energy about the club right now.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think all the neutrals that don't follow Charlotte FC that went to that atmosphere this Saturday really like experienced like, okay, like I've never came here before and this is a phenomenal atmosphere. So I think some people that were just there to see Messi have converted to Charlotte FC fans. So in a way, Messi was helping us out as well. And so
he's got to throw him a bone somehow.
Nice. I want to give a shout out to Hernan from We Are Awesome TV. He said what Charlotte has done in 2025 is absolutely incredible, but what Top Mid 90 has done is even greater. Thanks for that, bro.
Where's Esteban?
I'm sure he's gonna be in here at some point, So that's our twin flame in Austin. Okay, so I want to break down this match a little bit by bit, right? I mean, let's start off with Kalina's performance. Absolutely phenomenal. I think in the first 5 minutes, Jordi Alba had a shot on him, obviously the penalty against Messi. And then I think an Allende shot too in the second half.
1v1.
Right. So, Brian, talk to me about this Christian Kalina right now. I mean, he's been crucial to keeping a lot of clean sheets recently. I want to say 6 in the last 7. And one of you can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
I think it's for sure 4 in the last 5. I'm not sure about 6 in the last 7, but it's several. And Dean mentioned this in the post-match presser, literally confirming that they brought Calendar in to put some pressure on Kalina, and he's delivered on that pressure, being, and rising to the occasion. And I think that's just another par for the course in terms of finding ways to raise the standard, when it's dropped, and finding ways to get these guys to push to the next level. And I think that's Kalina finding his form at the right time. A lot of these guys finding their form at the right time throughout this entire stretch. I'd say the midfield is another big part of that. Bronico, Westwood, Diani's movement has been really, really solid, connecting all of the lines. I think that's a big part of what was missing earlier on this year. There was a lot just more disjointedness in the midfield, and just not being in the right position at the right time, and not also helping out the attack, as the 4th or 5th option, because those are going to be the difference makers come playoffs. Like, who are the cheat codes that help take the pressure off of the Zahas, the BLs, and so Bronico making that run, being able to time it well, things like that. Westwood has also delivered on multiple assists, not in this game, but throughout this stretch. So I think those are the, besides Kalina, also the midfield really stepping up is a big part for me.
Nice. Vaughn?
No, I think it's also the level of trust and the level of chemistry in front of Kalina. Like, I think what's happening is Kalina's positioning has improved from what it was during the bad stretch. I think he has stepped up and corrected a lot of the stuff that was out of character for him. But I think a lot of that was born from some of the things that were happening in front of him on the back line, and the instability there, and some of the maybe even tactics that were shifting as Dean was trying to adjust for all of that, and also with the schedule congestion. I mean, it was ridiculous through especially May and into June. So I think Kalina now is that steady hand, and he's making the saves that he's supposed to make, and he's also finding ways to make some of the saves he probably shouldn't be making. Like the really tough ones. I think it was Doyle in his article that was talking about his goals added metric is like +0.54. Like, it's on par with
It's
like
insane.
Georgie Mihailovic, or not George, excuse me, Georgie Petrovic,
Exactly.
before he made his big move over to Chelsea. So it's one of those things that he's playing to that goalkeeper of the year level. And we said going into this year, it was like, man, if we can be the same defense we were last year and add a little bit more flavor to the offense, what can this team do? And I think we're starting to see that.
Yeah, I think great points all around. I think it's very commendable, especially after going down, like in that tough stretch, right? Your ability to bounce back, I think it's important. And we've seen that from a guy like Kalina who wants to continue to be key for this team and fair to it. Like he's one of the leaders. I think Zaha mentioned in the press conference that, him and Kalina are kind of the guys that are typically out there shouting, like, contrary to what we see of Ashley Westwood on the pitch, he's not like that outside of the pitch, right? And so I think he had a phenomenal game, right? And also, like, we talk about Toklomati having like a performance that he'll never forget. I think Kalina as well, he'll look back at a night like, Saturday and say, I was able to stop one of Messi's penalties. Not only that, but that helped turn the momentum up for Charlotte FC. And so because it could have been a different game if they scored that goal.
We were talking about, like, when Toklomati was on a brace, that Kalina still might have been the player of the match at that point, even with Toklomati scoring a brace. Obviously, hat trick definitely puts it over the edge, but still to have that kind of performance where you could maybe be considered the man of the match by us over a guy who has a brace is, commendable for sure, to say the least.
Well, when I said when we had that bad stretch, I felt that there was a psyche problem going on. I felt like there were some things where there was that lack of belief in yourself, but then you also had that belief that like you were going to give away that crucial goal. You were going to have that play that didn't go in your favor. And what is huge about this game for Kalina, right? He's going up against Leo Messi and getting a save in the biggest game of the year for the club. And when you're heading into the playoffs and he has that self-belief, we remember how important he was in some of the other Leagues Cup runs and some of the even the playoff games against Orlando where he's that great goalkeeper, but also in those crucial penalty kicks and when the game's going to come down to the goalkeepers at the end of the day, that save on Messi, I think, is going to do a lot for his mental headspace for the biggest moments moving forward this year.
Yeah, which is important because there was an article written last year during the Orlando series saying that like the rules of the way the playoff structure was set up was dumb because of goalkeepers like Kalina who could just get you to draw your way 0-0 through a playoff series. They literally wrote an article about it. So if you get him in that kind of form, that's a huge cheat code there.
Yeah, awesome. Let's move on to the midfield a little bit, because when Pep went down, a lot of us were concerned because he was having an MVP-esque season for Charlotte FC, right? And we look at this midfield three, and all of them were key this week. Obviously Diani had that penalty, but I think outside of that, he had a great game. Ashley Westwood played the ball for Kerwin right before, he made the cross to Edon, Brent Bronico had an assist, and it just was a very ticking midfield, and so we talked about one of the positives of having, those three midfielders is like they have the ability to cover space, right? But they're also contributing in creating goals. So Vaughn, talk to me about this midfield.
Right now, I think we have weapons, and Dean has a lot of options now where we've got different clubs in the bag to be able to attack opponents. And I think it's really, really important, actually, that we've had this little bit of stretch where the team's been able to have some success without Pep Biel, because it's going to mean that at all moments in the game, you have belief that you're going to find a way to the result. And I think what we saw in this is what you lose is you lose a lot of that midfield creativity. You lose a lot of that ability to play through the lines and goals coming from midfield. That's why we saw several, 1-0 results when it was that midfield three and didn't have Pep Biel out there. But I think that also there's a really big misnomer about us being just a transition team. I think it's a load of malarkey because we have guys that play through the lines. We have goals that come from crosses. We've got goals that are coming from cutbacks that are happening in the box now. We've got guys that are scoring on headers on set pieces. It's coming in a lot of different ways. And I think that's in large part due to the weapons that we have in midfield. You have a Brant Bronico that can make those aggressive off-ball runs, and defensively is able to snuff out a lot of the entry balls into midfield.
Yep.
I think that's been very, very critical. Gianni's leveled up. Gianni really, really struggled at the start of the season. And we were like, what happened to Gianni from 2024 into 2025? If this is the level that we're getting now, where he's being clean on the ball in distribution, closing space better, taking the ball off of guys' feet, and springing attacks the other direction, being able to also dribble forward and be able to play where he's able to take that wide run. It's just all good things that are happening. And yeah, you have the luxury that in this game, you're going up against Messi, Pep Biel and Liel Abada can come on as victory cigars. It's just really a nice thing where the team is currently at, and that everybody has that chemistry with one another, regardless of the matchups.
Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about pressure and Kalina stepping up to that pressure. I think this was a big moment for the midfield to kind of handle that same kind of pressure once Biel went down. And they've, flashed with flying colors all across the board, and like you said, different ways. And with Biel joining, now you have really 4 different styles of player that you can kind of pick from. I do, for me, think that you're going to have to find a way to fit Biel back into this team from the start down the stretch, or in, especially in the playoffs. Like, X factors are just going to be required. That's what required and is required in a one-off match. And I think Pep Biel is that X factor for this team. So it's just a matter of figuring that out. Now you still have 4 games left to do that, and I think some favorable situations to mix it up and figure out how to make that happen. But that's all going to be, up to Dean and how that works.
For sure. Yeah, I don't think there's anything more I want to add to that. I want to kind of move on a little bit and talk a little bit about Wilfried Zaha's season so far. I think we touched on this at the beginning of the year, where, because of his personality and who he is, right, it can come across a little bit either arrogant or like he doesn't care, right? And we saw some of that in Enzo Copetti. But to me, if you're going to be that type of player, you got to produce on the pitch. And I think recently we've seen, that version of Zaha that we've been asking for, and also on that leadership side as well, like he knows, right? And I love that he says that, like, he yells at players and yells at people because he knows that they can produce more, right? And you've seen that with a guy like Idan Toklomati, who you can start telling that they're having really good chemistry on the pitch. So I'll start off with you, Brian. What do you make of Zaha's season so far?
So actually, you talked about Idan, but I was actually going to point out the relationship between Zaha and Gianni. There were a lot of instances early in the year where Zaha was really getting frustrated, and there was a lot of shouting between those two back and forth.
There's still some.
Yeah, well, but to see them like working through that and finding way, and like obviously Gianni, so I'd imagine off the pitch that Zaha played a role in like helping Gianni get back into form, just because he's done that with all of these guys, right? And so I'd say that's the thing that we're not seeing, the off the field stuff, behind the scenes in the locker room, things like that. When everybody talks about how helpful and just the supportive person he is in the locker room and with these guys that we don't necessarily see. I will say, like, it's sort of like the one downside to bringing in a Premier League player like Zaha. There's a lot of hype around him, right? Coming in, Tom Bogert posts like, it's Wilfried Zaha, dude, like all that stuff, right? There's hype coming in around these guys, and that means goal contributions are expected out of the gate, and then they didn't come. And then Tom Bogert, right? He's also on SoccerWise saying like, hey, the production isn't there, right? He's the main nationally recognized figure in Charlotte. So all those kind of things added up to just that downturn during the middle stretch of the season. But once the goal contributions start coming, once the team starts getting the form, Zaha's press conference for me, this last post-match presser really impressed me. The way he just talked about Idan Toklomati, him being his little brother. There was just a lot of great moments and great quotes from him that I don't feel like we have typically seen from him throughout this stretch, talking about how it's an important memory for Idan. He'll remember this moment forever. I mean, obviously, he was also talking about his brand a little bit, but just kind of bringing his personality into even that moment. So I think there was just a different side of Zaha that we saw, and we haven't seen much of that.
Yeah, like more of a mature kind of Zaha.
Yeah, or just kind of like grounded. also just kind
Gotcha.
of like level and just there and just kind of being able to kind of express himself calmly. There was a lot of times when we'd catch him in the press conference and he'd be kind of fired up and, and then he
Yeah.
would just let loose.
Yeah.
See this, whereas this time it just seemed like he was really centered in there. And it was just, I don't know, it was refreshing to see.
He does. I like how he takes time to process your question a little bit,
Yeah.
and then kind of answers through it
Yeah.
as he's thinking about
Yeah.
it. You know,
He doesn't always do that. If you
Yeah.
catch him at the right day, he'll light you up.
Nice. Vaughn?
I think he's a little bit like a Cam Newton, right? I think
Yeah.
in the sense of I think he is misunderstood. I think people jump to conclusions about what he's all about and what he's thinking, and
Yeah.
you know they read into every little moment for him, right? And I think we've been guilty of that. You look at him chirping at a sideline, and you know the perception is that you're reading his body language and the way that he's interacting with others, but we are lacking context of what's being said, how it's being said, why it's being said. And I think people put these expectations on him that, you know, I'm sure there were many people that looked at him and said, he's going to come in, he's going to tear MLS apart, he's going to be the guy that scores 20, 25 goals. Like, yeah, we got that guy. And Zaha was never going to be that. Like, it's just not what was a realistic expectation for him. So what I'm really happy about is like, no, you can see the chemistry he has with this team that clearly is a family. Like, I think it's very, very clear that the healthy locker room energy is there. And Zaha is a big part of it. And being a voice and a leader that tries to lead by example, but also set that standard and, you know, teach guys, this is how you become a winner in this sport. And I think Zaha has been integral to that. And also understanding that you have to adapt your role, right? It's not all about Zaha. Yeah, I think early on it was, you know, he said, guys, it doesn't work just passing me the ball and expecting me to like make magic happen. Like, you've got to have trust that the other guy's going to make the run, and you got to find that guy and keep trying, and like it will eventually hit. We're going to get there, and we're seeing that now come to fruition. It was kind of prophetic the way that he talked about what the team was going to need to do and saying we're going to get there. And I think now we're seeing the team get there. And for Zaha, he's found his role within this club. He's found his way to drop deeper and be a little bit of a midfielder, be able to make that horizontal run. And, you know, early on in the season, it was nothing but having defenders just on his back and like hitting him the first second he had a touch on the ball. And like, no, now he's finding pockets of space. He's getting to turn towards goal. He's able to run at guys. He's able to have variety in how he impacts the game. And just like in this game, right? There's one time he's able to find the slip ball to Brandt, but then there's another time he's going to be able to beat Rodrigo de Paul on the dribble, make Rodrigo de Paul look stupid. Not talking enough about that third goal. And when we earned that PK, like, he embarrassed both Rodrigo de Paul and Sergio Busquets. And that was a massive, massive thing, I think, for Zaha. You know, you're talking about Messi, you're talking about Rodrigo de Paul, you're talking about Sergio Busquets, and they don't have Luis Suarez and Jordi Alba, and Zaha's the one that ultimately was leading to that dangerous moment. And us having that star power on our side that delivered in the moment. No, I'm really happy with where Zaha is at. He's in form. He's finding ways to contribute, not necessarily by even getting shots on goal, right? He's creating for others. He's creating space for others, and he's creating for others. And I think that's what is ultimately leading to this incredible stretch now and setting us up to be really, really, really dangerous in the playoffs.
Absolutely. I think just adding to that is just like you mentioned, like understanding your teammates, right? I mean, like, he played that ball into space because he knew Brandt was going to be there, right? He mentioned in himself, like, he's starting to understand the strengths of every player that's part of, you know, that front three, the midfield. Because I think he said it during the week. He's like, I'm not going to play ball into space to Ashley Westwood because that's not his game, you know? And so I think, like, understanding your teammates, right, and kind of being a little bit less selfish, right, has really made a major impact in this squad, right?
Well,
And
he's talked about making that adjustment. He
Yep.
said he's usually expected to be the goal scorer, and he had to adjust his game to be more of a chance creator and kind of just evolving the way he plays, because typically he's expected to be even more centrally towards the end of his career, central goal scorer, and he's obviously adapted that.
yeah.
From that.
And then we can't finish this segment off without talking about Idan Tokolmati. I mean, 21 years old now, second guy to score a hat trick in Charlotte FC history. I think it was Zaha to Idan to Ashley to Vargas to Idan in that first goal, if I'm correct. Right. And so, I mean, what more can we say about this guy, Brian? I mean, I feel like every episode we talk about just his potential and how good he is, and he just keeps proving it.
Yeah, I mean, he's been absolutely phenomenal. If we talk about a cheat code right now, I mean, he is the cheat code for this team, like a Joveljic was for LA Galaxy last year during their MLS Cup run, right? The U22 initiative slot, and that's putting up double-digit goal contributions right now. And so it's just a matter of whether or not he can stay hot. I mean, well, and whether or not Zaha also then brings it, because like lately what's happened is out of the last 10 goals, 8 of them have come from non-DP players. Obviously, BL out. I would still kind of put him in that level of and tier of player, and then Abada not getting time. But Zaha's only been involved in 2 goals directly. Part of that is because Tokolmati and these other supporting cast people have all gotten involved heavily, and Tokolmati has been like the key to that. So, I mean, if he stays this hot, I mean, this team can go as far, as they can go.
Nice. Vaughn?
I mean, right now, his 11 goals in 1,200, 1,300 minutes, something like that. If he was starting all game, every game, he would be in the Golden Boot conversation right now. I don't remember where I saw it, but in goal contributions per 90 minutes, first in the league is Anders Dreyer, who's MVP.
Yeah.
Right. Second in the league is Pep Biel, and third is Idan Tokolmati.
Crazy.
So we have 2 guys in the top 3 in goal contributions per 90. So Idan and his level of maturity, his how about dynamism? I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Dynamism, I think, is a word.
Yeah, we'll go with it.
The chat will get us if it's not.
I second guess myself on it, but his ability to drop in deep, to make off-ball runs, to be able to get his head to the ball, to be able to get behind defenders and be the first to get a toe touch to it, being clinical. I mean, how often do we see him hit the ball over the post or wide, or even at a keeper? Like, he challenges opponents in a lot of ways and makes it very, very challenging. In this game, maybe the biggest play was when he was able to draw the red card on Aviles. Like, he is ultimately finding ways to impact games. And I think it's 7 games in a row with a goal contribution.
7,
I think it's like 5 or 6 of them have been contributing to the game-winning goal. Right now, we talked about how we need to have star players. We need to have game in and game out are finding ways to help the team win. And I think he's the one that ultimately stepped up in Pep Biel's absence in that regard, because that was Pep Biel, where every single game he's the one getting a goal contribution. Now it's Idan. Every game he's getting a goal contribution. It's really exciting to watch, and something, we joked about it in our chat, right? If Ajimong is an $8 to $10 million player,
dude,
imagine what Idan Tokolmati is going to be in 12 to 24 months. I mean, his ceiling is so high.
Yeah, I better see a 2 in front of his sale. I think he's going to be that good, right? And so, I mean, at 21, he's doing phenomenal, right? And so, I just wanted to make sure. I guess it's going to turn into the Idan Tokolmati podcast every week, because, I mean, he's just been phenomenal for us. Yeah, so fair play to him. Just a fun one for you guys, and I was just thinking about this today. Where do you rank this past game in terms of Charlotte FC's best of all time matches? Because it was like a really fun atmosphere. My favorite, I'll go first for this. My favorite one was, I think the playoff game last year here in Charlotte, right? I mean, it was a nil. It was the penalties that Kalina stopped, and as soon as we won, how that how that stadium erupted it just gives me chills just thinking about that. But this one's up there for me. I'd say probably top 5 if like I'm just going on a quick count. So how about you guys?
Oh man. I mean, there's a lot of games that are coming to mind. I'm thinking about the Miami game where we
First
clinched,
one
where we clinched the playoff spot. That was a big one. I still think about the 4-goal game for Daniel Rios. I think that was
Philly.
huge. Now that's talking about home games. Road games. That Chicago game.
With the Swiderski last minute goal.
That one still comes to mind as like so clutch and the team fighting back. I really like that game, but I'd agree this one is right up there in terms of, and as I mentioned earlier, that watershed moment. I think the ripple effects from this game are probably larger than any of those.
Yeah, I think for home games, this is probably the biggest impact in a variety of different ways. You have the Dean Smith in the press box moment where he's doing the Pepas Poznan with Tepper. Like, so there you have like just the off-field moments, the on-field moments, the amount of news and media covering this game and talking about it. I would imagine there was probably more coverage overall for this game than there even was for that home game against Orlando in the playoffs last year, just in terms of total coverage.
Yeah.
Now, if there was a road game, I feel like that was just as impactful. It was that Cincinnati game. This is biased because I was there, but that 3-1 result again at Cincinnati really seemed like it turned the tide for that season as well, to help really get them over the edge. And just I still don't know if I've ever seen them play that well in an adversarial atmosphere before. And so for me, those are like the tight two. But if it was a home atmosphere and I'm picking the home game, I think I would pick this one.
Also, I don't know if you guys heard that AirPod that Dean had. It was actually going to Sarmenti.
That's funny. Yeah. Also, the first ever match, has to be up there too. Although we lost that game, but that was a phenomenal atmosphere as well. So yeah, it was definitely one for the books. Awesome. All right, now going into another fun topic. Charlotte FC is 4 points off of that supporter shield right now. Philly's got that with 57, right? 4 matches to go. And what seemed impossible, in my opinion, back in mid-June, now there's a legitimate chance, that Charlotte could win the supporter shield. Like, how much, what's the likelihood of this even being a possibility, Vaughn?
I was telling you guys a little bit. I've been working on some spreadsheets. No, I do think that there is a high level of realistic chances here. I think, if anything, it's probably San Diego and Vancouver that are going to be the ones we.
Yeah, I was going to say Vancouver doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah, we can't control the situation.
7-0.
Yeah, but I think we can catch everybody else in the East. Like Philadelphia, we essentially need to close one more point. And we can catch them because we face them in that finale.
Right.
And I think if we can find a way to get all 3 here at NYCFC, like there's a legitimate shot that we find a way to run the table and ultimately win out. And so is it far-fetched? Maybe a little bit. But this was the big stat that I was going to drop on you guys.
Here we go.
And it was about teams that ultimately are able to hit that 60-point mark. It's pretty rare in MLS, actually, that teams get to 60 points. And it's the mark of a really, really good team. I think I want to kind of scale it back even to last year, right? Like when we finished 2023 with 43 points, I think we all talked about, but like the threshold of like progress for the team was, hey, it'd be great if we could become a 50-point team.
Right.
And we hit that mark. We got to 51. Yep. And I think we all looked at the team in the offseason, the changes that were made, and we said, hey, if we can keep this defense and improve the attack, and we brought in Zaha, like, could we be 3 wins better? Can we get to 60 points? And I think we all were like, on paper, yeah. I mean, that could happen. And the teams played their way back into that. But the stats and where it comes down to is if you take a look at the MLS original teams, the big 9 that are still in the league, I'll pull up my notes here. How many seasons combined do you think that the original 9 clubs, so I'm talking LA Galaxy, New York Red Bulls, Metro Stars, San Jose Earthquakes, Dallas, KC, New England, Columbus, Colorado, and DC, how many 60-point seasons do those teams have combined?
It's like a game show.
That's
for
a lot. That's a lot of teams. That's like,
maybe 6.
I would say a little bit more than that.
I mean, there's been what 20 what? How many seasons?
So
have there been in
those
MLS?
teams have a combined 268 seasons.
Okay.
So 30 seasons apiece, except for the Earthquakes, who had 2-year gap between San Jose 1.0 and San Jose 2.0. So 268 seasons. How many of those had 60 points?
Yeah, and there was less teams. I'm gonna stick with 6.
I'm gonna say 9. I'll go one each on average, so 9.
Okay, so you guys are being a little conservative. 15. 15
Okay,
times.
dang, all right.
The Galaxy are 4 of those.
Okay.
And 3 of those are in the post-shootout era. Every time that they did it, they won MLS Cup. Every time they cracked 60 points, they won MLS Cup. New York Red Bulls, Metro Stars, twice. Supporters Shield, both times. San Jose, twice. Supporters Shield, both times. FC Dallas, 2 times. Back-to-back years, they won Supporters Shield one of those years. Kansas City's done it twice. New England, 1 time, they won Supporters Shield. That was their record year when they had like 72, 73 points.
Yeah.
Columbus, 1 time last year. Colorado once. And DC United has never, ever had a 60-point season.
Dang.
So
they won the first MLS
So the
Cup.
point I'm trying to get at is us being in the territory of breaking 60 points is something we should not take for granted. That this is a very massive milestone for the club. And that the level of this club is, I think, higher than people recognize. And historically, like you saw me just run down that list, how many of those teams won Supporter Shields, won MLS Cup, made the big run. If you hit 60 points, that is the mark of a very good MLS side that can hang with anybody on a given day. And when we're a team that is conceding 1 goal in 6 games, and we're leading the league in multi-goal games, no other team in MLS this season has more games where they've scored 2+ goals. Like, we have the offensive threat, we have the defensive stability, and we have history on our side. Pretty exciting stuff.
That's awesome. That brings me to my point that I wanted to touch on too. I mean, that phenomenal stats. Like, yeah. So what you're saying is we hit 60, we have a good likelihood of winning, some sort of trophy. And that's where I'm at with Charlotte FC. If we look at this team, say 15 years from now, and we look back, right? Like this team, Brian brought this up, I think at the beginning of the season, they have to be in win now mode, right? Yes. And win now mode for me is bringing a trophy to Charlotte, right? Because when we look back at this team 10, 15 years from now, we're going to be like, we had Kalina in goal, who was the goalkeeper of the year the previous year. We had the captain of the U.S. men's national team in Tim Ream. We just sold Adilson Malanda for $8 million, right? A huge center back. We've had Ashley Westwood, who's going to be a legend of this club. Brant Bronica, who's going to be a legend of this club. Pep Biel in the MVP form season. Zaha, brought in the first season. You have in a lot of different areas, you have experience and you also have talent with a guy like Idan Tokomati, Zaha, right? So this is a title winning team, right? And I think they have a very good chance of doing something this season where they could bring some silverware to Charlotte. And backing it up with those Vaughn stats just makes me believe it even more.
Well, and I want to add to that, I think the other thing that is still in the back of my mind with this whole thing is I think there's already a certain level of regret of like, there were other points on the table for us this year, right? Like that collapse at Kansas City was huge. Philadelphia dropping the 2 points where that should have been a draw. The game where we were 2 goals up at home against Orlando, like there are certain results. The first Miami game where we lose 1-0 at home, New England at home, like the points were there. But that's what I'm saying is like, I think that the level of this club is higher than where they even are in the standings. Like to me, on the surface, this team arguably should be further ahead on points than they are currently, as opposed to back. Like, yeah, law of averages and everything. I think we've hyper balanced out. I don't think we're the level of winning every single game. I think what we're doing right now is a little unprecedented. but I think we're closer to the really good side that can win every match than we were that bad side that it was losing every match.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, I think they learned from that.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there were certain games in those first 5-6 that you're like, we kind of got away with it, and like it was there. I felt like there was a little complacency from the team, and I think hitting that bad form really taught these guys we can't take any of these points for granted.
Built
Brent?
character.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Brian.
look, any team in any sport in history is going to have a tough time with 8 of 10 on the road. I'm going to bring this back to 90s Chicago. That's where I'm from. The Bulls always had to do a West Coast road trip to start like every year because they would like close United Center down for, I think it was like a circus. And they had to do like 8 games on the West Coast to start and that was Jordan Bulls dynasty, like maybe the best team in any sport of all time. And that was a tough stretch for those guys. And so like 8 of 10 on the road, whatever that exact number was, I think it was 8 out of 10 on the road. Like that's a tough ask for any team ever. You're going to have a hard time getting points. And so I still had always thought they were going to potentially get 27 out of the last 14 games. They've already pretty much hit that mark. And so at this point, for me, it's about make sure, lock in top 4, guarantee that, control the controllables, keep getting results where you can. And if you have a chance at Supporter Shield on decision day, then you think about that then. For now, it's about getting, because at the end of the day, Supporter Shield for me is not something that they can decide on yet. Vancouver can decide it for themselves if they want to.
That's
Philly
fair.
can technically still decide it for themselves if they want to. So right now it's about just keep getting results, get a result in New York, a team that's very inconsistent right now. I went to their game at Labor Day weekend and saw them lose to DC live in person. They're not consistent. They're totally beatable, even in a spot where they're usually very good at home. But
team that we have favorable results against.
Yeah.
We'll get into.
Yeah.
DC has stepped up a little bit with their new coach.
True. But I would just say, like right now, it's like you've got back into that. You've learned from those mistakes, those hard times. They've persevered, and now it's about just continuing to just strive forward, game by game, and just see where the chips lie at the end of the season. I think that make sure your top 4 that's the difference between making an MLS Cup run as a top 4 team versus not. I've run that stat before. I think it's like 3 teams have made a final since 2012. If you're not a top 4 team, you don't want to be in that spot. You want to be in the top 4.
The statistics man's over here. Both of you guys. Yeah, the crazy thing is like if NYCFC beats us, they're 3 points away from us with a game in hand.
It's wild. It's wild.
That's how tough
too,
the East has been, so
yeah.
Awesome. Okay, let's preview this game a little bit. And I want to start off with this first. We talked about history making potential team right now, but how much extra pressure is there on these guys to try to get to this 10-win game streak, right? Because like it's got to be in their mind. Like there's no way you're not thinking about that, in this match, and I don't know, does that play a factor in the psyche of this team, Vaughn?
Right now, I think no. I think that right now they're playing with house money. I think the pressure is not on Charlotte in this game. Like that, we just saw them rise to the occasion against Miami and have that kind of result against Miami. They've got to be thinking, man, we can go into NYC and we can make this happen. And the confidence level of the last time we faced them, we won 2-0. But they recognize. I think the good thing is they're going to go look back at that tape. That was another game that I was concerned about Kalina's psyche, because at that time that we beat NYCFC 2-0, that game was 1-0. I think the insurance goal came from Kerwin Vargas, and Kalina in the post-game presser had expressed, if NYCFC had stayed a little more patient, like they were going to break us. They were going to score. And I had noted at that time that I was concerned that Kalina was saying that your goalkeeper of the year, your guy that has a 1-0 lead is not in the headspace of saying, we're up 1-0. This game's on lockdown and we're going to see this game through. No, at that time, the feeling was, no, we're going to find a way to blow this. That's the keeper's psyche in game and voicing that. And thankfully we got that insurance goal. But at that time of the year, no, like that goal that was going to be the equalizer was coming, and the team believed that goal was coming. And I don't think that's the case anymore. And NYCFC, they're going to have to play a little open. They're going to have to be desperate in this game a little bit, because they're fighting to avoid the play-in game. They're fighting to try and continue to surge up the standings. They're trying to right some of the wrongs that happened in that game at DC. And so I think the pressure is all on NYCFC. And for us, yeah, we're going for history. We get to go out there with all of this confidence, beaming with confidence, and have an opportunity to etch our names permanently ahead of Seattle in the history books as the team with the longest winning streak. So going into this game, I think the psyche is, now let's go and do our thing and make history.
Yeah, and it helps that they've won their last 2 road games, right, Brian?
Yeah, 100%. I think the pressure and the perseverance that we talked about earlier was after that tough road stretch, after like going into, like that Orlando game and drawing and figuring out how to get result after result, and then winning a bunch of games, and then still being like, man, we're still in like 9th, we're still in like 8th, man, we're not even, we've won like 6 in a row, and they're still not able to climb the table. I think those were the moments where the pressure was probably felt by the players a whole lot more, because it's like, even when you're getting result after result after result, you're just not able to climb the table after having been in that hole that they had dug earlier on. So I think those were the moments where the pressure was there, and they've risen to it time and time again. At this point, yeah, like you said, it's house money. It's history is the cherry on top of the cake. At this point, they've already done the job of getting themselves back out of it and handling that pressure well.
And also, I think something that a lot of teams have struggled with playing at Yankee Stadium, it used to be that you're playing on a postage stamp, right?
Yep.
The field's a little bit smaller. The game is a lot more narrow. I think having a narrow game plays to our defensive structure really, really well. Yeah. And I think also what we saw in this Miami game, we played at a very high technical level. I think something that we've grown into this year as well, as chemistry has built, is we are a very technical team with a lot of guys that are very good on the ball, very protective in possession. And I think that playing in the confines of Yankee Stadium, that we have that level to be able to be successful in that environment. And I was noting, Idan Toklamati, go to the bank, like he's gonna score a header in this game. Like to me, he's gonna get opportunities in the box, and I think this game's ripe for that.
Awesome. All right. Let's touch a little bit on the formation of this team, or like go in a little bit more tactically, right? Because now you have the added caveat of Pep Biel being back. He got some time this past weekend, right? And so it brings I guess Dean Smith to a decision, because at first I think Aaron mentioned it here as well, like you could play him at right wing, but I'm not touching that front three of Vargas, Idan Toklamati, and Wilfred Zaha right now, right? So you have a decision to make, right? Do you drop Diani, who looks like the most likely candidate to come off, and put Pep Biel? Or do you keep, these 3 CDMs who've done a really great job so far? So how would you approach this game, Brian?
I would approach it cautiously and making sure Biel is fully fit. So I would not be rushing. You don't playing with house money. You don't need to push it. He only played 15 minutes. I would not consider him probably like starting level fitness yet. Just my guess. I mean, he'll probably be caught up pretty quick. But Dean's already been punished for this multiple times this year, right? Harry, new signing, even earlier in the year, right? Doumbia, right? So like time and time again, it's kind of like pushing these guys a little bit. Obviously, there's times when it's like a necessity,
you need it,
short of left backs, things like that, and you kind of just throw a guy out there, like, and hope it, we can make the difference and get these guys out there. But like, there's really no reason to throw Biel back into it unless you're fully confident he can go at least 60. I don't see there's any reason to push it, because the team's playing well right now as they are. I do think, like I said before, he's the X factor that's going to really help this team in the playoff run. And so that's what this is all about, working him up to that 60 minutes, 90 minutes come playoff time. And so for me, okay, he did 15 minutes against Miami. Can he, is he at 30 minutes this week? And just sort of like, there's no reason to push it any harder than that. But I definitely want to see him going closer to full 90 like by the end by Philly. But like for me, there's no reason to push it. And it's not even about tactics. It's just fitness. No more hamstring injuries.
So if he is fully fit, does that change your perception, Vaughn?
I mean, if he is fully fit, I he's the best player. I mean, he's leading the team in goal contribution. So I think if he's fully fit, you do let him have the run. I agree that the tactic could be, hey, let's go 60 minutes, see where the game's at, and we'd love to get him on for 30 minutes. That logically makes a lot of sense. If you're struggling in the game, you could bring him on for 45, right? And say, hey, we need a change of pace here. Something's tactically not working. But what I could see also happening in this game is the tactic side of you get to throw a curveball. Right now, 4 games left in the season, and we're debating, and nobody knows at New York what's our midfield going to be. And I think that is a really great luxury to have, that we can throw some curveballs at the opponent right now, and I think we feel confident and comfortable either way in what you do. But I do think that come playoff time, like the people that are saying, oh, don't ruin a good thing, don't mess with the chemistry, like this is what's working right now, like BL can come off the bench. You're crazy. You're absolutely out of your mind crazy. Remember that the start of this 10-game stretch, like BL was in the lineup, and he was, I think he had 3 goals and 2 assists
in 3 games.
Yeah. So like, guys,
insane.
Lose that thought. Forget it. Pep BL is a starter for this club. I can't believe I even have to say that. And I think the move when that happens is that Gianni's going to go to the bench and Bronico's going to go back to that pivot alongside Westwood. But that will come in due time. In this game against NYCFC, toss up, it can go either way.
Yeah. I want to reiterate my point. It's fitness related. Just to make sure.
Brian said we don't need him, guys.
I'm just hammering that point home that was fitness related. Because anyway, just to make sure.
Nice. Well, Brian, talk to us about this NYCFC team, right? Obviously, you mentioned, they've had their ups and downs, but still, they're only 6 points behind us, And so, given how MLS is as well, and given how strong the East is, I'm not taking this match for granted, not that I was to begin with.
No, you shouldn't. I mean, Alonso Martinez is very good up front. I mean, he scored a lot of goals. He's probably one of the more underrated strikers in this league right now. I'd say overall, he doesn't get a whole lot of hype. And I think that's also just kind of how New York City FC have been this year, like kind of like under the radar, not getting a whole lot of hype because of that. For me, a lot of inconsistency. Sometimes they'll hit some really nice highs, but then they're also losing at home to DC in a game where they should definitely come away with all 3 points. And so I think that's just kind of where this team is at. They're still kind of relying on Maxi a whole lot more than they probably should at his age and at this stage of his career and where this club is trying to aim to be at. Hannes Wolf also like really looks like a good player, but just not consistent enough. And I think that you could run up and down this lineup and this roster and point out a lot of guys that are like that, really talented players, young, inconsistent, a lot of those kind of guys on this team. And so Charlotte should, for me, they should come in with a decent amount of confidence. I mean, they already are because they're, tied the record. But I mean, New York City, like we said earlier, Vaughn said earlier about the pressure being on New York. I definitely agree with that. And that's really about just getting a couple of behind frees.
And I think you also have 2 clubs that are all or nothings right now. I believe the home record for NYCFC is 9 wins, 4 losses, and 0 draws. So no draws at home. So the game's going to end with a win or a loss most likely. And of course, Charlotte, we've got 2 draws on the year. So the game is going to be one of those ones where it's going to fall one way or the other, most likely. Of course, now it's going to be a draw. But just speaking it into existence, I guess. But yeah, I think it's one of those games. I agree. Alonso Martinez and Hannes Wolf, they're guys that can flip the script of a game. He's like the Christian Espinoza of strikers, right? Like the people that follow the league real closely, I think know and recognize that he should be in that conversation of one of the best in the league. But he's not one of those flashy names out there. But yeah, Alonso Martinez is he is a beacon of consistency in this league.
Nice. What else can I say? But nice. No, I'm kidding. All right. Well, some quick questions that people have been asking us. Do y'all think? I don't know. I can't tell what this person's name is, but The question is, do y'all think Kalina will win goalie of the year again? I think we all like. Listen, he's had a good season. Obviously, like the whole team was bad in May and the first parts of June, but I just don't see him in that conversation.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, that middle stretch was pretty rough, and I mean, obviously, it wasn't all Kalina, but there were definitely some really big Kalina blunders. Now, granted, last year I would say he wasn't really in the goalkeeper of the year radar until down the stretch. He really ran away with it, and so when you get hot at the right time, things do open up, and like recency bias is a real thing. And if you go with another 3 or 4 clean sheets, and all of a sudden you're in the supporter shield conversation or winning, like those become factors. And then because at that point, if you have another 3 or 4 clean, he might lead the league in clean sheets at that point.
Yeah.
So those things do factor in, I would say.
My issue is some of the blunders of some of those
100%.
goals, and also like you do say timing matters. I mean, when Charlotte went through their rough period, that's where the votes for MLS All-Stars were. So he kind of lost out on that momentum, because before there he was having a good season, and you could argue for Kalina to say he deserves to be at this next MLS All-Star game. And they've had that stretch, and everybody forgot about Kalina because he was just not great.
Yeah, I think the only way he wins it is if we work our way into that supporter shield, and we're finishing with like 13 wins in a row, and he's given up like 2 goals in 10 games. Like, it's going to be really hard to deny that. But it was that midseason stretch that probably did him in on really winning it. I think right now the front runners are probably like,
I like Takayoko a lot. I like Vancouver's team
Takayoko,
right now for a lot of defense.
Dane St. Clair could be there. Andre Blake still in. Those are some of the guys that are going to be in that conversation.
Drake Calendar.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
Well, and I want to add this too. I think the other crazy stat for Kalina is that 19 of the 38 goals he's conceded were all in May. Half.
Wow.
Dang, that's a crazy stat.
He conceded this year were all in the month of May.
Wow.
Yeah,
oof.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Dang, that's a phenomenal. That's a Vaughn stat for you. If I haven't seen one, Okay, Charlotte FC clips. Clearly, you're a huge Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy fan, because half of your comments have been that. But he wants to know our thoughts on his signing. He's on loan right now, but I guess start off with you, Brian. What do you think?
I mean, I think out of the guys in the back line, he's probably the weakest link, especially defensively. We've kind of seen that. He's also really young, right? It's kind of like a flyer pick, sort of like Eric Williamson was for different reasons. Williamson, I think I had higher expectations of what he would provide this team. But it's kind of like a flyer. It's a guy they probably liked from the scouting department. Saw, hey, he's got especially some upside, because what I like most is that he's extremely flexible, right? You could kind of play him as a winger, midfielder, both sides of the field defensively. So I think they're as a kind of like a gadget player, like be able to fill in like 4 or 5 different roles. There's value in that. There's a lot of value in that. Now it's whether or not you want to go through the process of actually signing him longer term. I don't necessarily see him as a locked in starter by any means. I think he's just in the lineup because of a lack of kind of options there. So, it's mixed review. I think a player like him, he's a young developmental piece that you just more time is necessary. More. Yeah,
because definitely defensively, we've seen some games for him where I'm like, but going forward, he's been great. He hasn't gotten injured, which is a plus side, because fullbacks. He's friends with Justin Bieber apparently. So maybe we could get him at the halftime playoff show. Who knows? Vaughn.
Yeah, no, I think I said at the time that he was signed that he was about as good of a pickup as we could have hoped under the circumstances of Burton going down. That we were able to quickly pivot and get Jaquil in, I think was significant for how the season played out. He's eaten a lot of minutes. I think he's been serviceable. To that point, he has been the weakest link at times. And I think on paper right now, like if Harry Toffolo was healthy, the guy on the bench, and we all know it, would be Jaquil. So I think he's stepped up. I think he's made some progress in terms of the chemistry with the club. I think he is still prone to some mistakes. Jordi Alba, he should have gotten his head to the ball and cleared that ball out on the Jordi Alba attempt, the volley that was early on in the game. To me, that's like that's one of those head to the ball. You got to track that guy.
Yep.
That's your responsibility.
That's the first play I thought of.
And so like those moments, that's anecdotal. Like we've had those moments for Jaquil. But I think he's been a good locker room presence, right? I think he gets along really well with everyone. I think that he's settled in where he's had some instability between his jump from Toronto over to Montreal and being able to step in and be a meaningful role player for us and pick up meaningful minutes. It hasn't all been bad. It hasn't all been good. I like Jaquil to a degree, but if we're in the playoffs, I'm hoping that Harry Toffolo is the one that's starting over him by that time.
Also, something that counts but not really is his personality. I really like Jaquil as a person as well, and you need kind of those figures in that locker room as well. So that's just like an added bonus, you know. And so before we get into score predictions, we do have an exciting announcement. You know, we will be hosting a watch party at the pub in Uptown this Saturday. You know, I mean, to me, I want to be with Charlotte FC fans if we break this record, right? You know, because it's going to be a historic time for this team, you know, and like it's very hard to look in the future, to look back at the past, if that makes any sense. But you know, I want to be with fans. I want to be able to celebrate, you know, Charlotte FC accomplishing such a huge milestones, because we're only, you know, 4 seasons in for this team, and this would be a phenomenal thing for us to do, you know. And so if you're free Saturday at 12, come to the pub. We're going to be watching the game. We're all going to be there. I want to be able to celebrate with fans. And 12 p.m. at the pub. I think we'll do some post-match interviews as well. We did some. Vaughn was there at the last one, you know, and so
Cincinnati, it was great.
Yeah, Cincinnati, we've owned them this year, you know, the real Queen City, you know. So, you know, if you're free Saturday at 12 at the pub in Uptown, there's parking right next door. You know, we're gonna have a good time, and I want to celebrate with Charlotte FC fans. So make sure you're there, 12 o'clock Saturday. With that said, let's get into some score predictions, and I'll start off with you, Vaughn.
Oh man, put me on the spot with the score predictions. I'm gonna go with 2-0 us.
Nice. Who's your goal scorers?
I said bank on Edon getting one.
Yep, header.
And I think that we'll see another from Zaha.
Nice. A nice Wilf goal. Brian?
Nice. 2-1. I think Toklamati and Biel.
Love it. I love it. All right, I'm gonna go with a 1-0. A Dean Smith type of win, you know, and you got to bank on Toklo Mati. You know, the Toklo train continues, and we make history. You know, I really would love that for Charlotte, you know, to have something to say, hey, like we're the only team that's done it, and it's only been our 4th season, you know, as a club, which would be insane, you know. With that said, Vaughn, where can people find you?
At VI Pullman on socials. I think most people listen probably can spot me. So yeah, that's where to find me.
Brian?
Yeah, you can find me on X at Mauer Media. You can find all my written content at top90.com, collegesoccernews.com, MLS dropping points.
What don't you do, bro?
Show, all over the place.
Albemarle paper now.
Albemarle paper.
Not getting enough, Brian.
Yeah. Not getting enough sleep, Brian. Yeah. Jorge Gonzalez, you can find all our stuff on Top Bin 90. The last 3 days, our socials have been phenomenal, by the way. You know, I mean, we've gotten tons of viral content, and you know, I love interacting with the fans too, so we did some fun content, and so it's been great. Follow us on all our socials, you know. And with that said, this episode is a wrap.